And welcome to the Factor Uncensored. Thank you for joining us tonight. We begin with a controversial new policy from the Katy Independent School District Board. Teachers will now be required to tell parents if their kid identifies as LGBTQ+. Now, there's more conditions to the new policy. Students can only use bathrooms and locker rooms by their biological sex. Teachers will have the right to refuse a student's request to update their pronouns. Those teachers will also be banned from talking about gender fluidity in the classroom. The policy has been the subject of a lot of debate at board meetings. Those in support believe it's a parent's right to know what is going on with their child. However, those against believe it would do more harm than good.
My children will be free to call themselves whatever she, he, they choose to be called, and really, that's none of your business. This is Katy ISD sanctioned bullying.
If some kid wants to use a different pronoun, then so be it. But forcing kids to call that kid by a pronoun not matching the biological gender will cause confusion when it goes against common sense, especially if they might get in trouble for using it.
Time for our guest here on the Factor Uncensored to weigh in tonight. Joining us, parent. That damn Lewis Hunter's here. LGBTQ+ activist Mike Webb, parents Stephanie Martinez, and Hayden Cohen from the Students Enraged in Advancing to Texas. So Hayden, let's begin with you. What were your thoughts when you heard about this at the board meeting and the final vote?
It was frustrating. I will correct you, by the Students Engaged in Advancing Texas. It was frustrating. We'd been sitting there for so many hours where LGBT+ students had come up, parents, teachers, their librarians, their next door neighbors, and they all spoke to the board, and it seemed like it went one ear and out the other. And then they debated for a while behind closed doors. They came out, debated for a while, acted like children, honestly, and then they passed it, and it felt like nothing we said and nothing we had done that entire evening had mattered.
How will this impact you? How does this harm you?
It means that our services for LGBTQ+ youth and our support to them needs to increase significantly. We need to ensure that gender sexuality alliances can still continue and they can still be a source of support. And if they can't continue in those schools, which will likely happen, they can find other places in the Houston area and in Katy to go to. It also means that for many students, we will see incidents of bullying. I say incidents. Cases of bullying. We will see an increased cases of suicide, self-harm, neglect, possibly kids getting thrown out of their homes from their parents. And that is something that we're trying to work with our community partners to handle.
All right. Lewis Hunter, let's hear from you as a parent.
I think this was a failure on the part of the Katy ISD board to even acknowledge this. We're talking about a school district. All right. We have allowed LGBTQ and that movement to come into a school district. This is where you learn. I don't care if it's a boy, girl, he, they, them, whatever they want to call themselves. And there's something perverse about a district dealing with the gender identity and sexuality of children. We're talking grades. There was no designation between whether or not we're talking from elementary school to seniors. All right. So, and to her point, when she's saying, you know, well, bullying, that sort of thing, kids have been, kids have been, well, to their point, kids have been bullied since the dawn of civilization for being fat, skinny, ugly, Asian, Hispanic, Muslim, whatever the case is. They've been bullied for years. This is not something that is specific to the LGBT community. So to try to address this self-imposed sympathy plea and get away from education, you teach him. I don't care if he's a boy that wants to be a girl, teach him. If he's a girl that wants to be a boy that wants to date girls, teach him. That's what school districts are for. We have no business discussing this. And it's frustrating as a parent that we have allowed organizations and administrations to tell us what they're going to do about our child's gender. They didn't have a boy. They're not in possession of a birth certificate that says they're a boy or a girl. They should have no comment on how that student is being treated. Every child in school is a student, regardless of their sexuality. And it's sick.
All right, Mike Webb, let's hear from you. Your thoughts on this as an LGBTQ political activist here in the state.
I want to be 100% clear that on most cases, parents and teachers have direct communication with each other when it comes to their youth. These are very, very few cases where a child may need a safe space they don't have at home in order to figure out what's going on with themselves. Oftentimes, I think over 75% of LGBTQ youth across the nation, according to the Human Rights Campaign, are not out to their parents. We're sending kids back home to potentially harmful environments. I'm personally thinking about the lifeline that some of my teachers back in my youth gave me growing up in the city, of providing a safer space, not encouraging either way, just allowing me to be and exist. If I had known they had to tell my parents, there's a high likelihood that I would not be here today. And that's a reality for so many LGBTQ youth in this area.
Stephanie Martinez, as a parent, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like he said, that school needs to stick to the main thing, which is education, and it's none of their business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is something that needs to be handled at home.
Do you feel like it should be a safe haven for a child who wants to tell his teacher, or they shouldn't be involved, period?
I mean, yes. Yeah, it's kind of a tough situation. I mean, there is counselors for that, but yeah, I mean, I think overall school needs to stay out of it.
If you don't mind,
yeah.
Into what end? You know, a math teacher should be teaching math, not trying to figure out if my child has eaten, if they have clothes, if their mother's a junkie, you know, if their father's an alcoholic. We are failing on every international academic metric out there, all right? We're trying to figure out gender, how to deal with gender. These are kids, these are students. I don't give a damn what gender is, teach them math. Don't care what gender is, teach them history.
All right, Hayden, give us the last 20 seconds here.
I will say, while it is none of the teacher's business, there are times when students may tell the teacher, hey, you've got my name on a roster, can you call me by another name? I did this to my professor today. We do see that, and that's what they were referring to. Not necessarily a student deciding to come out and be like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I have a girlfriend. No, it was the small instances. It was the teachers overhearing it from students talking. That's what would be required to be
And really quick, would you have a problem with that, Lewis?
No, you know what, if I'm a teacher, what I should be able to do if a student comes to me and says, I want to identify as they, well, sit they ass down and get this assignment. You know, it's that simple.
But would you call, if he's a biological male and he wants to be called?
It's not my business.
But
That's
I mean,
not my business
as a teacher.
As a teacher, no, I wouldn't call.
Okay.
I would call to see if he was failing or she was failing or they were failing.
But you wouldn't give them the basic respect of using their preferred pronouns.
No, that's if you can find a group of people that are willing to acknowledge you as that, then you go right ahead. I'm not knocking that. I need someone to understand this. Just because I don't take part in something doesn't mean I'm against it.
Got it. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.